Recent years have seen rapid growth in the use of distributed ledger technology, and particularly blockchain, for issuing and trading in cryptocurrencies. Till now, this particular area has eluded regulation, and individual European jurisdictions have been addressing the associated risks by themselves. In a moment, we will hear about the plans for the detailed legal regulation of cryptocurrencies at the European level. From Joanna Werner, attorney at law, associate in Wardyński & Partners, New Technology and Banking and Finance Practices. We are making this program for foreigners, acting as board members in Polish companies, foreign investors in Poland, and their foreign advisors.
Hi! In this episode, I'd like to talk about the forthcoming landmark changes to Polish and, broadly speaking, European regulatory environment concerning crypto assets and their impact on the way companies involved in this innovative area are doing business in Poland and in the EU. For the time being, there is no exhaustive crypto-specific regulation in Poland or in the EU for that matter. The fragmented and confusing crypto regulations, which materially differ across various EU jurisdictions, are considered to be a sore point for crypto assets players who, by definition, seek to scale their business models and act on a multi-jurisdictional basis in the short or at least medium term. The current regulatory state of play significantly obstructs these ambitions, with certain jurisdictions like France or Switzerland having well-advanced regulations applicable to crypto assets providers, and others, like Poland, with a rather scarce regulation in this respect. Things are nevertheless likely to change in the not-so-distant future with the coming into force of Mica, which stands for the EU-level legislative initiative named Markets in Crypto Assets Regulation. Mica has been worked on by the decision-makers for a couple of years now and has only recently been given its final shape with the October's vote on its text by both the Committee of Permanent Representatives, called COREPER, and the European Parliament's Economic and Monetary Affairs Committee, called ECON. It is not unreasonable to expect that the regulatory reality for crypto assets will change, at least partially, as soon as with the next 12 to 18 months. Mica's objective is to harmonize the EU crypto assets market by bringing into its ambit those entities which elude existing regulations designed for traditional financial services. On the other hand, certain rapidly developing areas like DeFi or NFTs, at least to a considerable extent, are excluded from Mica's scope for the time being. Things may, however, change in the future, as Mica requires that reports on the need of regulation in these areas are prepared within the next 18 to 36 months by the EU regulators, that is, EBA and ESMA. So, who and what will be covered by Mica? The first conspicuous area of regulation are the so-called Asset Reference Tokens, ARTs, and electronic money tokens, EMTs, which terms basically refer to stablecoins as the market calls them. This should come as no surprise, especially after the notorious collapse of Terra USD and its token Luna back in May this year. ARTs issuers will in principle need to obtain a newly introduced license from the relevant regulator unless they already have a status of a credit institution. EMTs, in turn, will in principle only be allowed to be offered by e-money institutions, although other entities will be able to participate in the process of their offering, subject to compliance with specific requirements set forth by Mica. Apart from the licensing requirements, the issuance of those tokens will need to be complemented with the publication of a detailed white paper. Another big change are the envisaged redemption rights of both ARTs and EMTs holders, as well as the corresponding obligation of the issuers to maintain asset reserves and to increase or decrease them when tokens are issued or redeemed. Additional requirements will relate to those ARTs or EMTs which will be classified as significant under Mica. Those tokens will also be supervised on the supranational level by the European Banking Authority. Last but not least, utility tokens will also be covered by Mica, but the proposed regulatory regime will be much lighter in this respect. ARTs and EMTs aside, Mica will also comprehensively regulate a not-so-new category of market players, that is, crypto assets service providers, so-called CASPs, and impose on them new licensing, capital, and consumer protection requirements. All those that already deal in or plan to engage in, for example, the operation of a crypto trading platform, the exchange of crypto for other crypto or for fiat money, as well as in such services as custody services, portfolio management regarding crypto, or providing advice on crypto, should get acquainted with Mica well ahead of its coming into force in order to ensure that their business models are in line with the new regulatory perimeter. Mica will definitely have a powerful impact on the crypto assets market in the EU, and especially on those jurisdictions which, just like Poland, do not have in place any specific regulatory regime dedicated to crypto assets. The planned change will be a real regulatory earthquake for market players and regulators, especially from those jurisdictions. Although Mica does not touch upon such issues as, for example, AML, DeFi, NFTs, or crypto assets which are considered to be financial instruments, it will still likely allow for a greater harmonization of the market and facilitate operating in the whole EU based on a single license, which is simply not achievable right now. Those areas which are currently out of Mica's sight are likely to fall into its scope or become regulated by other legal acts anyway. Take, for example, the already mentioned reports on the need for regulation with respect to NFTs and DeFi, or the contemplated changes to the EU AML framework, which will, in particular, expand the so-called travel rule to transfers of crypto assets. All those involved in the crypto assets world should monitor the regulatory developments in this area closely, as the new crypto reality is definitely ahead of us.
September 2022 was the day of the ceremonial opening of the Baltic pipeline, which has provided Poland with a link to the natural gas fields of the Norwegian continental shelf. This was the culmination of a project whose origins reach back to 2000, when the entire volume of gas arriving in Poland was still being imported from Russia. From its very outset, the project aimed to ensure the country's energy security by diversifying the sources of imports and to facilitate a move away from coal, a more carbon-intensive source of energy than natural gas. Although now we have the Baltic pipe, Poland's gas storage facilities are now almost 100% full, while the liquefied natural gas LNG terminal in Świnoujście, which was opened in 2015, is also operating at full steam. So it looks like our country is already prepared for a winter without any gas supplies from Russia, from which Poland was cut off as early as this April. Thank you for watching this episode. See you next time.